All right, so you want to get into overlanding. You've got the tent, got your cooking supplies, your little fridge or cooler, whatever you got. You could have a 23 Tacoma or a 97 Civic. Doesn't really matter. But you don't know how to plan and it's holding you back. So today I wanted to go over some of the tools that I use to plan and what kind of got me started into overlanding. Now some of you are probably wondering, what is overlanding? And there's probably tons of definitions out there. One of the more popular ones I think is, the journey to the destination or self-reliant vehicle travel and that sort of stuff. And people get really complicated with these definitions, and essentially it's just car camping on steroids. And that's it. You're going places that most people can't get to enjoy what this world has to offer, and avoid people too. I mean, I like to get away and be on my own and do my own thing. Now that's not all what it is. There's a lot more that goes into it as far as mechanics and planning and just using your brain to kind of get you out of sticky situations and stuff like that. But the purpose of this video is to show you how to plan for that. And it's a scary process to get into because if you're new into it, you don't really know what you can and can't do. And so I wanted to go over some of the tools and my strategy and how I do that. And so essentially, overlanding's great. I love to get outdoors. I love to go camping, off-roading, make some tacos with a fire at 9 o'clock at night. It's great. But that's not everything. You're gonna go to the spots and there's gonna be towns or cities that have a lot more to offer than just getting outdoors and off-roading. You can go in town and go do like a pub crawl or go to like the hot springs or go swimming or I don't know, parachuting, or the world is yours, anything. And so what I like to do is, like if, let's say for instance, Colorado, right? I'm gonna be going on a trip in about 3 weeks, and one of the areas I'm looking at is Baune. Been down there before, it has a lot to offer, and some of the trails are actually open there right now. And so from there, I will do a route search and see what is actually open, and then that's pretty much my planning. So find an area, find some things you want to do, and find some routes around there. And that's like a weekend thing. Like you can have a plan drawn out for weeks and you can get more in depth into it, but for those of you that are getting out on the weekend, like 2 days planning, like that's all you need is like an area and some trails around there, and that's about it. So I'm gonna get into it and go over some of the tools, and yeah, you guys can follow along on the computer. All right, so getting into this, the first tool we're gonna be using is gonna be TrailsOffroad. And this is by far one of my most favorite tools that I use to this date. And so looking onto the screen right now, you have the dashboard, which I don't really use at all. And so if you go over to the map, this will kind of show you the coverage that this tool has. And so right now, the East Coast isn't the greatest area now, but in the past it's been a lot worse, so they're getting better with it. But the West Coast is very saturated with trails. And so for this little video, we're going to focus on Colorado. So you can either zoom in or you can go up here to top right on states and click on Colorado itself. Explore the map, and then there you go. So being here, I know that a lot of these routes are going to be closed throughout the year just because of the higher elevation. And so to filter through that, if you go on the top left here, show filters, status, open. And as you can see right now, huge drastic change. So I'm just gonna kind of zoom into where I want to go, and that's gonna be Buena Vista. So if I zoom in, and I already know ahead of time that some of these trails are open throughout the year, and Buena Vista itself has stuff that I want to do personally, so it's a good little area. And I know in about 2 to 3 weeks when I go out there, a lot more of these trails are going to be open. So we're going to kind of go in here and explore a little bit. So let's get something interesting. Let's see, let's go seasonal closure. So I know one of these trails will be open. So this one right here, I've done this in the past. There's a great camping spot in this area. I'm not gonna say where exactly, you'll just have to get out there and find it. But click on this one. So Paradise Divide. Click on it, read more. And so whenever you click on a trail, it's going to give you tons of information. This is what I really like about this tool. So this is going to show you the surrounding trails. This will give you like a shot of, you know, kind of like what you're getting yourself into, and it's just like some very top of the line stuff. So scroll down, and this is going to give you your difficulty, the elevation it's at, the nearest town, and what the actual highway name is. Because if you go out here, you're not going to be looking for Paradise Divide. It's going to have a certain highway name. So that's going to give you all that information, and it'll give you the time of the year that this trail is open. So right now it's the 10th of May, and I'm not going out there today. I'm going out there in like 2 or 3 weeks, and this trail opens in about 11 days. So that's going to be nice to know. So I might add that into GAIA, which I'll go over pretty soon. But if you scroll down, you have your summary, kind of like some of the highlights that it has to offer, and then these are going to be the kind of like some of the issues you'll run into, or the concerns is what it says. And so that could be, you know, the width of the trail. So you have like a Dodge Cummins, you're not going to get in there, but obviously that's not an issue on this. There's no, you know, it's not going to exclude you from it. And then you have the off camber, mud, high water crossings, and that sort of stuff. So it'll give you kind of like a rundown of like what's going to be expected. And so if you keep going down, there's this little feature in here that will, you can go in there and leave a review and let the author know if this is a lot easier, if it's harder. So this trail is actually a lot easier than what the author is saying. So it's good to know. You might get out there and you might be kind of, you know, you might see a trail that's moderate and you're like, I don't know if I should go on that. And you scroll down and it's a lot easier. So you might actually look into that. But if you want to know more about it, you can go down here to the waypoints and kind of get a feel for what's in the area, like what obstacles, and this will give you a layout of the obstacles and that sort of stuff. You can also go to trail video, watch the whole video. And if you want to go camping out there, there's a camping section which gives you a layout of what you can and can't do. So it's also nice to know. Now, one of the nice features that you can look at are the reviews. I know it's pretty basic, but I've gone out to these trails that are supposedly open, and the day before there was a landslide, and I didn't know about. If I had just read it, I would have known, because I went back later on and saw someone posted on there the day before and said, hey, there's a landslide, like trails closed, don't come out. So always pay attention to the reviews as you get closer to the time you're going to go on the trip, and you might save yourself a few headaches. But getting on to the next tool, we're going to go into GAIA, which is where I pretty much stay organized. And there's actually a feature on TrailsOffroad where you can actually upload directly into GAIA, which is right here. Click on that, and usually it'll ask for permission, which I've already authorized, but we'll go on over here. And this is South America, which is from a previous trip. But if you go over here, you zoom in, and there's plenty of tutorials out there on GAIA. I'm not going to go into the very, nitty-gritty details, but this is just kind of like a layout of how I use it and how I use it to plan. So if you want to learn more, I can make a video down the road, or you can just go on YouTube. There's plenty of them. But these are some of the trips I've done in the past. We're going to zoom into Colorado, where I just uploaded that into GAIA. And so if I want to get rid of all this, I can go to saved items, and that's going to take a second to load. So, all right, now that this is all loaded, we're going to go in here and kind of organize it a little bit so that we can see the 3 trails that I've added in. So as you can see, it's a little bit clustered with some of the previous trips I've done. So right now I've got some of the saved items, which is pretty much where you can have folders where you have routes, areas, and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go in here and turn these off. And then we're going to add the 3 trails that I want to do into the 2023 folder. Let that load for a second. Now there is a lot of data going into this, so depending on your computer and Wi-Fi and all that, it might be a little bit slow, so you gotta have some patience sometimes, but yeah. All right, so now that's loaded, we're gonna zoom into Buena Vista, and so this is the area. There's some trails over here I want to do once they open up, but this is pretty much it. When you upload it in the GAIA, it's going to give you the waypoints that you saw previously in TrailsOffroad, the route, and the color based off the difficulty, which is in this case going to be moderate with orange. And so that's pretty much it. I had the 3 trails inputted, and it's nice to see the trails that I prefer to do all in one area instead of having to go back and forth. And so just to kind of go through GAIA really quick and how I use it. So up here you have overlays, and this will turn off some of the features you have. So waypoints, right? If that's too much for you, you can turn them off or turn them on, or you can put on the labels, and this will tell you what these points are. And so depending on what you're doing, you turn those on and off. Getting into the layers, these are gonna be your layers that you have. So right now I have on GAIA Topo, which is essentially just a topography map that shows, you know, towns, highways. It's a good hybrid with everything, and I prefer to use that most of the time, but there's other features in here like the motor vehicle use map, which is very useful. We'll get into that later on. You can use the fresh satellite imagery, which is nice if you're trying to find a camping spot. Like let's say you're up on this trail and it's really dense, and so you get some imagery in there. You kind of look ahead of time and look for like those fire pits and mark them on the map. Into GAIA, you can mark little points and say, hey, I want to check out this spot later on. And so there's that. I mean, you also have wildfires, which here in Colorado in the summer, it gets dry. Like this might be pretty useful, and it stays current, as you can see. So you go in here, you have light pollution. There's a lot more features, and so for the US, obviously click on that if you're in the US, but there's tons in here. I mean, you can keep going, you know, feature weather. There's like cell coverage for like AT&T, Verizon, hunting overlays, you know, I mean, for the hunters out there, like there's tons of uses for GAIA, and there's tons of layers, and a lot of these are accessible to you for the free membership. And I believe if there's some that are out there that you want to use that aren't available, I think the membership, I don't know how much it is, I'll put it down in the video, but I don't think it's that expensive, and it's super useful. So saved items, that's once like I said again, that's where your folders are going to go. And as you see, it hasn't loaded. They have not gone into the 2023 folder, but eventually they will load into there. These are going to be your settings and how you do things, and this is how you create waypoints. And so let's say I'm down here on this trail, and I like this area. I come down here a lot, and so I see a camping spot, and I want to, you know, put down a waypoint and say, cool camping spot, right? That's not how you spell that. The cool camping spot. So you can also change the icon, scroll down a little bit, you can even search camp, and there you go. And you can color code it, so like if you want, you know, like your personal items that you've added in as like green, you can do that as well. So that way you stay kind of organized, you know what's what, and you have like TrailsOffroad as being red and like your personal ones that's green. So it's a good way to stay organized. And that's how pretty much use this. If we want to get into it now, one of the layers I use frequently is the MVUM, which is the motor vehicle use map. And so let's turn off some of these other layers so we can see it. And so here you go. Actually turn it off a little more. There you go. And so what this is, as you can tell, on Trails Off-Road, it's not going to give you all the trails, but the MVUM will show you pretty much all the trails that you can take your vehicle on, depending on the type of trail it is. Some of these are just for like ATVs and dirt bikes, but a lot of them are going to be for those off-highway vehicles. And so if you click on it, let's say this one, I want to check this out, right? So Cement Creek 7740. You click on that, and this will show you when this trail is open, depending on the type of vehicle. And so it opens up late May, which is like when I'm going to be out there. So I could add this trail as potentially another route to connect me to some other trails in the area. And so it's another way to plan. If you want to, you know, you're going in the Trails Off-Road, getting these trails, and you don't know how to necessarily connect them, you can use this overlay and, you know, make connecting routes. Like let's say if I want to go over the Crested Butte over here, there's plenty of routes that go into the area, and, you know, I can get over here, and then there's, you know, paved roads, and then I'm over here and I get in the next trail. Like if I can stay off the main highways, I will try to. Like there's tons of trails in this area, as you can see. Like Trails Off-Road is really more of the popular like trails that like off-roaders and overlanders hit, but this will give you all the layout of all of the trails in the area that you can actually go on, and when they're open and when they close. And so, all right, so for another resource I want to get into, especially if you're out east and you don't have access to Trails Off-Road, I mean, there's some out there, like if, let's look at the map over here again. So let's say you are in, let's say Kansas. Look, there's really not a whole lot in Kansas, okay? So another tool I love to use is Ioverlander. Sorry for not doing it. And so as you can see, there's an abundant amount of resources on this thing. Like this is worldwide. Like you even have some like in China, and I'm pretty sure there's some in Afghanistan, yeah. It's everywhere. So with the most being in the US with 43,000 points. So if you go over here, click on it, let's go check out Kansas, right? And just a breakdown of what this app does. Essentially anyone can go in here and kind of post what they want. Like you can put camping spots, where to get gas, where to get water, medical facilities, anything you want. You can add photos, you can add reviews. Once you make a point, someone else can go in there and add to that point and say, hey, I was here 2 weeks ago and this is what I saw. They can add photos too, so it's really unique. And so we'll look in Kansas, right? And as you saw on Trails Offroad, there was nothing here, but I mean, this can be anything. So if I want to filter through this is a legend, right? So as you can see, this is what you get access to. So you even have like Wi-Fi, showers, vehicle storage, hotels, anything. So let's look at wild camping and let's close this up, check it out. So let's go in here. Let's Hodgeman. I don't know what this is. I'm just kind of looking. So click on this. Just east Jetmore, 4 miles off the highway on a good dirt road, small lake and plenty of space for camping, great overnighters. So that's not like a whole lot of information, but there is a check-in and someone's going off about it. Let's try to find a better one with photos. It's Kansas. It's kind of hard to find some good spots. Let's try this. All right, so there's this one. So we got Fancy Creek State Park, established campground. So you go in here, you'll get a description, they can drop some photos, which is helpful too. You can kind of get a feel of the layout. And so, this is kind of what we're seeing here, not the clearest pictures, but it gives you a feel for it. And this will give you the amenities. So like right now we got tent friendly, pet friendly, sanitation dump station, yes, like showers, hot. So there's showers here, which is, if you needed a shower after traveling for a long time, that's good to know. And then you got the latest check-in, which is basically someone that had checked into someone's location that they created. So camping area with really great trails. The trails go through a variety of biodiversity. So it's good. It's worldwide. You can find it anywhere. Like I used this in South America and it worked out great. And so, it's one of those resources that I don't think a lot of people know about unless you're actually like overlanding a lot, or I know a lot of people that do the traveling in the van use this too, but really great resource. You get a lot of feedback depending on where you're going and it gives you tons of information. So, and I think there is a way, let's see, you can get the coordinates on here. You can copy this and go into GAIA and plot that and add that into there and say, hey, this is a camping spot. And then you can add a link in GAIA in the description that'll take you directly to the Ioverlander. And so you're like, oh, what is the spot I'm on? You click on the link and it takes you here. You're like, oh, this is the camping spot I'm on Ioverlander that I'm now seeing in GAIA. And so let's go check this out. It's along a trail. So that is another way you can use this. And it's one of the tools I use a lot when I don't have resources available. So another resource I want to get into, which is, it's not very common, at least like in the off-roading community and overlanding world. If you're a hiker, you're gonna know about it, but it's gonna be AllTrails. And yes, it's mostly for hiking and all that sorts of stuff, but on the app on the phone, which I don't know why it's on the computer or for the website, it's kind of weird. But if you go on the app, which I'll screen record and show you guys, let that load up. If you go to the top, click on activity, scroll down to off-road driving. This will show you off-road driving for you. So right now, I'm not worried about Colorado. I have plenty of resources, but if you're out east and it's kind of scarce, this is another resource you can use. And so I actually used this on one of my trips I did out there for about 3 weeks, and I found this nice trail. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know if I'll find it on here, but this will give you some OHV trails and stuff like that, which you can further validate if you go in the GAIA, click on the MVUM, and go make sure that trail is actually open. But as you can see, click on this, and what do you know? It's a off-road trail on a hiking app. I don't think a lot of people know about this. If you're out east, it's a great resource. If you're having trouble trying to find, any of these off-road trails, I don't really use it a lot out here because I have a lot of resources out here, but out east, I know for my trip I used it quite frequently and actually found a amazing trail. I think it's like 1,000 miles long that goes all through like the Appalachians, and didn't even know AllTrails had that. So that's another resource. Unfortunately, you can't use it on the website. So if you're one of these guys like me who likes to plan on the computer, it's not on there for some reason, which I don't know why, but if you go on your phone, you can go on there, get the trail, cross-reference in GAIA, go on there, and then add it into your planning for GAIA. And then there you go, you have another trail. So that's another resource you can use as well that I've used previously and that's worked for me. So, okay, so the last tool I want to go over, and some of you guys might hate me on this, it's going to be Facebook. There's tons of Facebook groups out there. You can go in and, get some information on where you're going, specific trails and that sort of thing. And honestly, you get some of the best reviews because people will go in there and they'll just, pretty much talk on this trail and say, hey, this is an absolute terrible trail. There's trash everywhere. People go out and they tear up the fields and go mudding and do all this stuff. And so it's honestly a great place to get honest reviews and honest feedback and whether or not it's worth it to go. And so we'll go into one of these right now. I'll search for it. So let's look at Colorado, right? That's where I'm at. So let's look at the rescue and recovery. This is actually a good group to go into and check out, or at least I had this group. Okay, all right, so I found it. This is one of the groups, so Colorado Off-Road Trail Reports. And so you can go in here and these are actually live updates of certain trails that are in Colorado. And so, they will give you updates, and I think this is a pretty active group. Yeah, so if you're past looking, be there in the state, and as you can see, they're honest with it. They're talking about what's going on. So they're using GIFs, which is great. When is Slaughterhouse going to open? All right, so it's opened a couple of days ago. That's great information. I honestly thought that was closed. I don't even think it's on Trails Off-Road, but that's good to know. It's May. That's a great trail to hit. I hit that about 2 years ago, and I might actually add that to my trip. So it's good to know. There's information on here, and let's see, very little mud. Be aware that's ongoing logging in the area. You could come up on logging trucks, plant. So that's even more information you get. So Facebook is very underrated, I think, in my opinion. A lot of people downplay it as something they don't use, but you can go in here and kind of find trails that you might not even know about, or double check a trail that you might have questions on. Go in there, do a search function in your groups and look for a certain trail. I would recommend don't just post on there and ask questions without searching first, because people get lit up all the time for that, especially which isn't related to overlanding, but in the foreigner groups, people go in there all the time and ask what's the biggest tire size I can run stock? That has been asked a million times, and you can just search stock tire size, and it'll come up. But go in there, use the search function. If you can't find it, ask a question, and most people are kind of nice. Some people are, but it's a great place to get honest reviews and feedback, and there's a lot more information on there than you think. And this is just for off-road trail reports in Colorado. There's other trip or pages out there that have great information, and I highly suggest using that. So something I use all the time, especially here in Colorado, but your state might not have it, it might have it, but if you're planning out a big trip in different states, it's good to look forward and check out these groups that are on Facebook. So, all right, so that pretty much wraps up the tools that I use. There's other tools out there, but these are some of the tools that I personally use and that have worked for me. But some final thoughts I want to go over. For Trails Off-Road, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but there's a membership fee. And if you don't have the membership, it's, in my opinion, kind of useless. They really take away about 90% of the information that you'll get. And I don't personally agree with that. It might have changed. I haven't really looked at it recently, but I believe it's $35 a month. So if you're going twice a year, it's not worth it. At that point, there's other resources out there you can use to find trails. it's just very convenient because I live in Colorado, and there's tons of trails like here that they have on their website, and there's a lot of good information on there. So I think it's worth it to me, but it might not be to you. Another thing is do a honest assessment on your vehicle. I previously mentioned if you have a 23 Tacoma versus a 97 Civic. Obviously the Tacoma is going to go further. It's got better clearance and probably better tires, and it's going to be better on some trails. So do your research of the trail prior to going, know your vehicle, and do an honest assessment. Also look into like what you're actually comfortable with. There's been plenty of times where I've gone on a trail, didn't really do a lot of research, and I found myself very uncomfortable, and I was questioning myself, like, why am I out here right now? There's a huge drop, my vehicle barely fits on this trail. And so do your research, honest assessment of your vehicle as well. Make sure your vehicle is equipped and able to handle it. Right now I don't have, like, my winch isn't working too well. I got to do some repairs on it on the bumper, and so I don't really take my vehicle out alone on very difficult trails. Right now I'm doing very easy trails because in the event I get stuck out there, I don't have a way to get myself out. Like, I have traction boards and other stuff, but I want to have everything that way if I get stuck there, especially in Colorado where it gets cold, I have the resources to get out. And so make sure you have everything before you go. And also, summer's coming out west, check out fire bans. A lot of these counties do have fire bans. It changes constantly, and there's been plenty of times where I get out there and like the day before I check and it's fine. Like the day of, it's like, hey, fire ban now. So have some backup resources to cook food. Just check that out, especially like when it gets warmer in the summer. So that's pretty much it. There's other things you can look into for planning and stuff. Check out areas for public land, private, BLM. Make sure you're in those areas that you know of, or what I'm saying is make sure you know you're at. Don't just go into areas blindly, make sure you have an overlay. And for GAIA, you can also download layers prior to going. So if you're going to an area, you can download like layers for like cell coverage, public and private land, your motor vehicle use map, everything. So just do your research and it'll pay off in the long run. But that's pretty much it. If you guys want me to go into more detail on these and do like tutorials, I can, but there's plenty out there already, so I could add to the oversaturated market of that. But like I said, these are some of the tools I use. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and comment down below any of the tools you use. I know there's some good ones out there like Onyx Offroad. I don't use it, but I do want to learn how to use that because I've heard some great things about it. So yeah, just let me know.